How to get better at art. Today we're going to look at 20 negative mindsets that you need to get yourself out of straight away in order to get the results that you want. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Michelle, and on this channel we do all things watercolor. We do drawing, we do mixed media, even a little bit of business and motivation for artists too. Please do consider subscribing. It's completely free. I make at least one free video a week here on YouTube with extra content for YouTube channel members, and that's all about color mixing. If you're interested in that, just click the join button to find out more. Now let's get back to today's video. Now, I've been teaching painting and drawing in the real world long before I went anywhere near YouTube. In fact, long before YouTube was even maybe a thing. And I've come across the same negative mindsets. Indeed, I've struggled with some of them myself. But the one thing we've all learned over the years is that having a negative mindset or saying negative things, whether it's to yourself or out loud to other people, doesn't serve you in any way at all. Now, we all know this, and yet we still do it. So today I'm going to go through 20 of the negative mindsets that I've come across in my years of teaching. And I'm going to give you some practical ways of addressing these, some ways of changing your thought processes, because what you think about comes true. And at the end of the day, it's far easier to be negative than it is to get on and do the work. So we all love to revel in a bit of self-pity, don't we? So let's change all that and get some positive thinking going on. So the first negative mindset that you need to change is the idea that other people are more talented than you are, that they have more natural ability in art than you do. Luckily for you, there's been lots of scientific studies that have been done, lots of psychological studies that have found that actually raw talent isn't the biggest indicator of whether someone will be successful at something. Now, I made a video and I'll link it in the description of this one because you'll want to deep dive into that in more time than I have in this video when we're going to cover lots of subjects, but there's something called deliberate practice. Briefly, it is the practice of repetition, of practicing something, but also of analysing your results. So it's not practicing without purpose, it's deliberate practice. And you analyse your results and you look at where you're going right and where you're going wrong, and you make a plan and move forward. And it's used by top sportsmen, it's used by business people. It's been proven to be far more effective than ever talent is. Now, some of you know that one of my hobbies is martial arts. I've been training in Kung Fu and Tai Chi for 11 years now. I have zero natural ability at it. My knees and my feet are a bit rubbish. But after 11 years, I'm actually the highest grade in my club who's not an instructor. In fact, I'm training to be an instructor now. And let me tell you that during my time of training in Kung Fu, there have been so many people that have joined the club that are younger than me, that are fitter than me, that are more flexible than me, and that picked things up 100 times faster than I did, that were so talented it almost made me cry. But where are those people now? They didn't stay. They didn't stay at our club. They didn't keep turning up to lessons as I did, week after week, in the rain, when I wasn't feeling very well, when I hadn't had time to have dinner. I just turned up and trained. And I am now ahead of all of those people that had that wonderful talent and natural ability. So stop worrying about how much talent other people have. Concentrate instead on deliberate practice. Now, the next negative mindset is the words "I can't draw," because you've probably figured out by now that really drawing does help your painting and you need to be able to draw, and you might say to yourself, well, I can't draw. So let me tell you a different way of looking at this. So drawing is a process. It's not about you can do it or you can't do it. It's about learning and going through that process of getting better at drawing. Now imagine you went and had your first driving lesson. Perhaps you can already drive, or maybe you don't drive, but either way, think about having one driving lesson, your very first driving lesson, and then somebody afterwards says to you, oh, I see you had a driving lesson. Now, what would you be most likely to say? Would you be most likely to say, yes, I'm learning to drive? Or would you be more likely to say, I can't drive? Do you see the difference? So I want you to stop saying, I can't draw, and I want you to start saying, I am learning to draw. Now, here on YouTube, I have a whole playlist full of drawing videos that are going to help you to learn to draw. I'll also link to one at the end of this video. And if you really need more help than that, I have a full comprehensive online course. You'll find details of that in the description of this video. So stop saying, I can't draw. The next negative thought or negative expression is, I don't have enough time to make art. And we all have busy periods of our life. Me, I'm always trying to do a million things at once. But the truth is, most of us do have the time to do the things that we want. We all slack off at times and we all do nothing with our time. However much we appear to be getting done is just human nature. So if you say to me, well, I have no time to make art, I'm going to ask you how much time you spent this week watching television. I actually don't watch any television at all. It's something that my friends actually mock me for, but I don't care because I'd rather be doing other stuff. I would ask you how much time you spend on social media or scrolling Instagram or watching YouTube. I'm terrible for watching YouTube. I'm always watching stuff on YouTube. And the truth is, you probably do have some time that you could be drawing. Now, if you're in a really, really busy period of your life and you simply do not have time to paint and draw, I want you to sort of lower your expectations from doing a full painted project down to just perhaps doing a few minutes of sketching each day. I actually went back to drawing after not drawing for a long time when I was breastfeeding my daughter. I was cradling the baby with one hand, and with the other hand, I was doing a little bit of sketching. So if you really are very short on time and it's just a busy season of your life, just find the time to grab a pencil or a pen and some old scrap paper and just do a little bit of drawing, because all of that practice is going to come in helpful when you reach a part of your life where you have more time, as I'm sure you will. Something I've heard a lot from people is, Michelle, do you think I'm too old? Am I too old to start this now? This makes me laugh because I've heard this from 22-year-olds and I've heard it from 85-year-olds. The truth is that none of us know how long we've got on this earth. You might look at your own age, you might be in your 70s, and you might think, well, how much can I really achieve compared to a younger person? Not to be morbid, that younger person could wrap their car around a tree next week. And there's really no point in dwelling on these things. I'm middle-aged now. I have absolutely no ability to moderate my behaviour or to stop doing new things. Doing new things is what keeps us vibrant and alive. Although I loved drawing and painting as a child, I didn't start my career as a professional artist until I was in my early 30s. At age 45, I took up Kung Fu. At 53, I became a YouTuber. Who knows what stupid crap I'll do next? But I guarantee that unless I'm in a nursing home with soup dribbling down my front, the day before I die, I'll be planning the next recipe I'm going to cook. I'll be thinking about writing a book, wondering if I should start learning Italian. There's nothing you can do about your age. Put it out of your mind. There's a proverb that says the best time to start this was yesterday and the next best time is today. My advice is do the stuff you want and don't worry about your age. Now, the next thing I hear is I don't have any money for art supplies. Sometimes this comes from people that are very young and still living at home. They just don't have any disposable income. Or you may just be in a difficult part of your life where you don't have spare money to spend on art supplies. You need it for extravagancies like food and rent. But I want to say to you that there's always art that can be created and that you don't need the best quality materials to make it. Of course, you're going to have a better time and a better experience with beautiful high quality materials. But life isn't perfect. I'm reminded of the last time I went to the British Museum. Down in the basement, there are sort of a lot of contemporary pieces of art created by people in far-flung countries all over the world, often from communities that don't have a lot of income. There were beautiful wall hangings made from woven, twisted pieces of plastic bag. I think we've all seen that recycled art where things have been twisted out of Coke bottle caps or old pieces of cutlery and made into beautiful things. When I was at school, I used to draw with a ballpoint pen. It's actually a really good, really sensitive medium. If you have a look on Instagram, you'll see some amazing work being created. I'm actually thinking of making a video where I get really, really crappy old art materials and see what I can produce with them. Let me know in the comments if you'd like that video. Now, you may not know this, but in addition to doing watercolours and printmaking and things like that, I also make mosaics and I make them from old broken crockery. You can literally create art from anything, so don't let a lack of expensive art materials stop you from getting started. At this point in the video, as always, can I ask you please to remember to click that like button, that thumbs up for me. YouTube rewards channels with audience interaction. If you can like, share, subscribe, or leave me a comment, YouTube will push this video out to more people. I can help teach more people how to paint and draw. I'm so grateful to all of you who watch me here on YouTube. Now, the next negative mindset is my health issues are stopping me from creating art. Now, I'm not going to downplay anybody's health issues, but let me assure you, if you're over 30, you have health issues. I have numerous health issues. I'm a complete health freak, spend lots of my time doing exercise, but even I have health issues. Let's list a few of them just for fun. I get migraines, I have IBS, that thing that makes your fingers numb in the winter, Raynaud's disease, I have that. My ligaments are too soft and therefore I've had multiple surgeries on my feet. And a few years ago, I had treatment and long-term drug therapy for breast cancer. We're all dealing with something. Some of you may be dealing with health issues that are ongoing and are indeed not curable. The thing that's wrong with my feet is not curable. because surgery is risky, so I just have to have orthotics and do physio and things like that. And as a health freak and someone who's a vegan, I'm not going to tell you that, just having lots of fresh fruit and vegetables is going to solve all your health issues. You're suddenly going to have loads of energy for creating art, because it's simply not true. However, whatever you are dealing with and whether it is curable or not curable, there are a few things that are going to make it easier. Those things are good diet, as much exercise as you can manage, getting as much rest as you can, and relaxation, things like meditation. And of course, we can include art in things that help us to feel better. That doesn't help if you haven't got the energy to make the art in the first place. So if you are dealing with serious health issues and you do have a real lack of energy, what I suggest is that you take your art in small bites. So don't give yourself this idea that you need to sit down and create a whole painting. You want to do things that can be broken into small tasks, really. Colouring books are amazing. Painting things like botanicals, where you can just paint a flower and then have a rest and then paint another flower and just sort of build something up. Also things like folk art and things that have a pattern that you can fill in gradually. A bit like a tapestry that you pick up and put down when you get tired. Look at creating the sort of art that isn't about, having to have all of your paints out and create some huge big sky and, there's all this pressure to get all the colours right and everything like that. Look at creating art that's a little bit more craft-based, a little bit more pattern-based, that can be done in small bursts so that you can take a break and rest quite easily when you need to. So the next negative mindset is saying to yourself, well, I'll never paint like that artist I admire. Now, sometimes people have somebody that they really look up to, they really like their style of painting and they want to paint just like them. But the truth is that you are never going to be that person and you're never going to paint like that person. And you know why? Because you were meant to paint like you. Every single human being on the planet is unique. And trying to make yourself paint in the style of the person that you admire is a highway to nowhere. We'll talk about style again later in this video, but for now it's fine to admire other artists. But if you're aiming to be exactly like them, you're going to be disappointed. Instead, aim to be exactly like yourself. The next negative mindset is one that shows up halfway through a painting, and it's the one that says, it's that little voice in your head that says to you, well, you've ruined this now. There's no point carrying on. There's no point finishing this because it's not going to be any good. It started out well, but now you've messed it up. You may as well stop. Now, this supposes that the only reason to create a painting is to have a finished result, when, as we spoke about earlier, it's really important just to practice. There's also something called the ugly stage in paintings. All professional artists know about the ugly stage. It usually happens because you've got a lot of midtones in, you haven't got the darks in that are going to make the lights really sing. So it all starts to look a bit sludgy and disappointing halfway through. But I want you always to vow to push through to the end. I can't guarantee your painting will work out. But if you don't go to the end of the painting, you never get to the point where you are making those final touches. And that will teach you so much. Whether or not this particular painting is a success or not is going to teach you things that you can take on to the next painting, and then you'll have a greater chance of finishing that one successfully. The next negative mindset is, it's selfish of me to paint, to take time out for myself, for my painting, which doesn't really achieve anything or bring any money into the household when other people need me. But the truth is, you really must take some time for yourself. Now, I used to struggle with this so much being a single parent. And being a mother, of course, is fraught with guilt. If you work all the hours that there are, you're not a good mother because you're not there for your child. If you spend all the time with your child, you're not being a good role model because you're not working. We all know that as parents, it's guilt, guilt, guilt. But the truth is that in order to be there long term for other people, you really must take some time out for yourself to do your favourite things. It's not a waste of time. Other people in your household do things that they enjoy, and so must you. The next negative mindset I've seen people struggle with is when someone in their family is fantastic at art and so they almost feel like they shouldn't even be trying. I've come across students in my class who've grown up with their parents being a professional artist and they themselves would love to do art, but they just don't feel like they'll ever be as good as that relative. It could be a brother or a sister or somebody who's talented in the family. When I was growing up, one of my cousins was absolutely fantastic at music. She went on to be a music teacher and then she went on to be a teacher that teaches other music teachers. And everybody looked at my delicate fingers and said, Michelle, you should play the piano too. Truth is, I'm tone deaf and rubbish at playing the piano. However, now I'm older, I think to myself, if I wanted to learn to play the piano, then you know what? I'll just go and take some lessons. Would I ever be as good as my cousin? Well, no, but is that the point? I don't think so, really. And art is such a broad church that I encourage you to go on your own art journey. Don't worry about the other people in your family that may be good at this or that. It may be that you have a relative that was a fantastic oil painter. You yourself may be really good at a different kind of art. You just haven't discovered it yet. If you want to create art, then don't let that unwritten family pressure get to you. The chances are it's all in your head anyway, that no one else in your family much minds or thinks about it. You have just as much right as anyone in your family to become an artist. The next thing that I hear people say is, well, this is too hard, there's too much to learn, this is just too hard. But I want to tell you that actually the tasks in life that are hardest are the ones that are the most rewarding. Because there are simpler tasks that you can just learn. For instance, when I was younger, I learned to touch type. I have as well learned to drive. And with things like driving, unless you've got some particular job as a driver, you really need to only reach a certain standard. You need to learn a few basic things and then you can drive a car for the rest of your life. But there are other more art-based things like music. I learned Tai Chi, and that's a process that will never have an end. I'll never have learned Tai Chi because it's a lifelong learning process. And in our Tai Chi club, they have a saying. I can't remember who coined it first. It's a famous quote from somebody or other. But it basically says the journey is the reward. We have that written on our Facebook page. And what that means is that it's not about getting somewhere. It's about enjoying the journey. And things that are really easy to learn ultimately come to a stop. The fantastic thing about art is there's always more to learn. This is something to embrace and not to fear. Next up is the feeling that whatever you produce, you're never 100% happy with it. There's always something wrong with it. Now, I've sometimes said that the way you can tell the difference between an amateur artist and a professional artist is that the amateur artist will show you what they've done and then tell you all the things that are wrong with it. A professional artist will never do this. Does that mean there's no mistakes in our work? No, it doesn't. It just means that we are not going to point them out to other people, because why would you do that? And you have to, at some point, let other people judge the work. If you receive a compliment for your painting, you might then think, well, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. This is a bad painting. But the truth is that all art is subjective. If they like it, they like it. It's very, very rare that you're going to produce a piece of work that you're completely happy with and that's got no mistakes in. For myself, I would say that there's probably maybe 10% or 5 to 10% of paintings that I complete that I'm absolutely happy with. The rest of them, there's always areas I feel perhaps I could have improved. Or there are downright mistakes that I've sort of managed to cover up a little bit and I'm not going to point them out to other people. Perfectionism can be a real problem when it comes to creating art. As I mentioned in the last point, it's partly about the journey and about the pleasure of creating art and putting it out in the world. You must get away from the idea that everything has to be perfect, because even professional artists don't create perfect work all of the time, or even perhaps any of the time. Another negative thought we can have is that it's so much easier for other people. Haven't you met someone who's got no need to bring money into the household? Maybe they're retired, perhaps they're married to a rich partner. They can just spend all day creating art. They haven't got kids or dogs running around at their feet. They've got a fantastic large art studio. Their family is supportive and everything just seems right for them. It seems so much easier than it is for you. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about this. I remember when I was trying to be a professional artist, and I used to read about other professional artists that were working at the same places that I was working at, taking part in the same art fairs and exhibitions. And I'd read an interview with some lady and she'd say, oh yes, well, I just work at my art all day and my husband makes the dinner. He also drives me around to all the venues and loads and unloads the paintings. And there's me, I'm a single mother. I'm trying to do everything at once. I'm trying to make art on the kitchen table. And I haven't got anyone helping me or supporting me at all. But it didn't stop me from achieving the things that I wanted to achieve, and it shouldn't stop you either. Try not to focus on what other people are doing. It's only going to put you off your food. Yes, some people have it easier, but I guarantee that when you achieve the things that you want to achieve, having not had it so easy, the satisfaction you feel will be much greater than that of someone who's had it really, really easy. The next negative thing that I hear from people is, my family just aren't supportive. This could be friends telling you to stop wasting your time. This could even be a close relative who's actually quite cruel, who says unpleasant things. One of my students years ago used to make really beautiful collages. They were so lovely that she frequently sold her work, but she was always quite down about it because when she showed it to her husband, he told her that, quite frankly, he thought it was a load of old rubbish. Now, as we spoke about previously, you can't guarantee that you're going to be in ideal circumstances. And I have often had people tell me that my art isn't any good, I'm wasting my time, I couldn't possibly teach anybody. Yes, that's a real thing that an ex-boyfriend said to me. The truth is that you have to believe in yourself. And as I've got older, I've discovered that when people criticize you, actually it's saying more about them than it is about you. And it's often born out of jealousy. You're often doing something that they would love to try themselves, but they're just too scared of failure to give it a go. You have to block out the voices. I can't make your life perfect and I can't stop your friends and family from saying negative things to you. But I do think that you can actually protect yourself from this a little bit. You can't make the people around you be supportive of the things you're doing, but you can at least ask them not to speak to you about it, or you can just not show them your work. Don't put yourself out there as someone else's punching bag. It's really none of their business. And if they want to say negative things to you about your artwork, that is their problem and it is not yours. The next negative thing you can say to yourself is, I'm never going to get any better at this, I will never improve. And the truth is that if you say that, you're kind of giving your brain an instruction. I've been teaching for over 20 years and I've never taught anybody that didn't improve. Of course, people improve at different rates. Some people, as we've spoken about, pick things up really quickly and some people take longer, but everybody does improve. The only people I've taught, and this is very rarely, but the only people that I've taught who don't improve are those who actually think that they're doing everything right already. And so it is important that you get feedback, constructive, kind feedback from other people. It is important that you analyse your work and see what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, but providing you are prepared to go on that journey and to take an active interest in your own learning and to seek out tuition for the things that you don't feel you're good at, I absolutely guarantee you that you will start to see improvements. The next negative thought is to think that people will laugh at your efforts. I've heard this so many times by people who want to join an art class. They wanted to come along to one of my beginners art classes and they were so worried that other people would laugh at them. Now, I can't guarantee in life that for anything somebody might not laugh at you. You only need to go onto Twitter to see how cruel and unpleasant people can be. I suggest you don't. But within the art community, actually, it's very, very rare that anybody would laugh at your efforts. If you want to show your work or if you want to learn to paint and draw, I suggest you do it with other like-minded people. People who create art tend to be very empathetic and sympathetic, and you'll find that people who are much better at you are far more likely to help you along the way and to give you constructive advice than they ever are to laugh at your efforts because they were in the same place as you when they started out. If you've put your work up somewhere public, like a public Facebook page, and you've had a negative reaction, I suggest you join more of a closed group where you are surrounded by other artists. I do have my own Facebook group, and I assure you that if I ever catch anyone in there being unpleasant, which is very, very rare, but when I do, they are kicked out so fast their feet don't touch the ground. The next negative thing I hear people saying, and it doesn't seem at first like a negative comment, but actually it will affect how you create art, and that is to tell yourself that you must be very, very careful not to make any mistakes. Everything you do must be perfect. You've just got to be very, very careful. I certainly agree with taking things slowly and taking a careful, deliberate approach, but there is a point where you must take risks with your work. Years ago, when I was first learning to paint, my art tutor, he said to me, your work's getting really good, Michelle. He said, now you need to ruin a few things. And I kind of came out of the class and I really didn't know what he meant. And then I realised that he meant that I must start taking risks. Now, when you take a risk, there's a chance of failure. But always worrying about doing everything perfectly will just keep your work completely static. You'll never progress. You'll never find your own way and your own style. Allow yourself to ruin things sometimes. Don't beat yourself up. Even professional artists have work that sometimes just doesn't work out. But whilst you are ruining that piece of work, you may actually discover some new technique that you can then take on and use in other work that's going to be much more successful. Don't allow yourself to become frightened of experimenting and so careful that you must never make a mistake that you don't experiment with your work. Get yourself out of the perfection mindset, and you're going to absolutely have to accept that sometimes you screw up, sometimes you ruin your work, and that's okay. Just let it go. Another negative thought or a worry that I've had a lot of people talk to me about is being colourblind. I can't create art, Michelle, because I'm colourblind. Now, I don't know if you know this, but colourblindness is actually much more prevalent in men. I think it's about 4 times greater, and that's just genetic. And people tend to worry far too much about colourblindness. Now, of course, it's going to get in the way if you're looking to do something realistic. But at the end of the day, there's no right way to see colour. Colour is just the way our brains interpret light bouncing off of a surface. So if you do suffer with colour blindness to a greater or lesser extent, I suggest you just embrace the fact that your art is going to be a little bit different. You can look at something like someone's face or a tree or something like that, and you might think to yourself, well, I'm not seeing it the right colour. But as I said, scientifically speaking, there is no right colour. Many people see colour differently. Animals don't see what we see at all. Colour is a part of art, certainly. But at the end of the day, unless you want to go for photorealism, you're not looking at just blindly copying something, you're looking at making your own version of it. And you can find your own way of mitigating some of the issues you have around colour blindness, but I certainly wouldn't let it stop you from creating art. The next negative thought is around specific techniques or specific subjects, and you might say to yourself, well, the last time I did this, I messed it up. What can I say? That just means you need more practice, so you need to throw yourself back into it. Just like being too careful, avoiding certain subjects or certain mediums or certain techniques because you messed them up last time, it's not really a good way to progress. We tend to think of progress as being a straight line from down here and it goes up here in a straight line. But the truth is it doesn't. It's a graph and it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And sometimes you do a couple of paintings that are really, really good. And then you do one that's absolutely awful. Then you do one that's mediocre. Sometimes you go through a bad patch where you can't seem to paint anything nice. And then you go through a good patch. Then you might go through a better patch. Learning is not a straight line. You are going to experience setbacks. There are going to be things that you did well and then messed up the same things the following week. Try not to let your last experience of art put you off. This is the sort of thing that can leave you stuck for months. There are really 2 things that you can do if you messed up the last thing you did. You can try the exact same thing again to see if you can improve it, or you can take a different tack and go for a completely different medium, a completely different material, a completely different subject, just to give you a bit of a pickup. If there's something that you know you're very good at painting, try doing that next. It'll just give you that lift to get you back into making art. One of the most common negative things that I hear people say about their own work all the time is, I don't have a style. Artists are supposed to have some kind of style. I don't have a style. I'm all over the place. Well, they might not have the style that they want. They might want to paint really precisely, but they just can't do it. Well, they might want to paint loosely, and everything they do is far too precise. The thing with style is that your style will find you. You don't have to seek out your style. All you have to do is work at improving the things that you need to improve, whether that's colour mixing or drawing or painting techniques. Just keep practicing. Other people will see a style in you long before you see it yourself. I remember people saying to me sort of fairly early on, they said, oh, I recognise your work anywhere, Michelle. It's got a certain style to it. And I used to think, oh, I don't know what my style is. It's all over the place. Like many people, I admired loose painters and I wanted to paint like that. But that's not really my personality, which is to be very neat and precise. But my work also wasn't photorealistic, so I didn't quite know what it was. Eventually I found that the word that suited my work most of all was stylized, because it was very precise, but it also wasn't necessarily realistic. The worst thing you can do is try and force a style. Of course, if you paint really, really tightly, it's good to loosen up a little bit. And if your work is very scruffy and messy, it can be good to try and be a little bit more controlled. But never try and force a specific style. The style of your art is not something you get to choose. You might want to, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. It's something that's just inside of you. I can't wake up tomorrow and decide to have blue eyes when they're sludgy green. I can't decide to be 6 foot tall when I'm 5'3". Actually, I'm very nearly 5'4". Just a little touch off 5'4". And you can't choose your style. Don't worry about it at all. Let it go. Just keep practicing. Your style will find you. So do let me know in the comments if any of these negative thoughts have resonated with you. As I said at the beginning, they really don't serve us at all. And the quicker we can put them aside, the quicker we can improve our painting and drawing. Before you leave this video, don't forget to have a look in the description. Any other videos that I mentioned during this video will be listed there. You can also grab some free downloadable PDFs. I've even got a free watercolour painting course that you can take for no money whatsoever. You can also find out details of all my paid courses. One of the things that will improve your work the fastest is learning to draw. You can watch my 20 fast drawing tips right now.